Mr. Ashish Rai of Aurionpro Solutions joined us on the show to talk to us about what exactly is a data center opportunity for the company as well. Hi Ashish, good to be speaking with you. I do understand that the company provides data center building services, both in terms of turnkey data center physical infrastructure as well as consulting and planning services for the same. Talk to me about the overall opportunity that can come to the company's, path in terms of the overall growth which is expected from data centers.
Hey, Ansha. Hi, good morning, and thanks for having me. So we've spoken about this earlier as well. So data center is one of the four large bets that Aurionpro has on, right, along with the bets around banking, around smartification of mobility, etc. Right, and data center as we see, we specialize. We've got one of the most specialized teams, at least in India, in terms of designing of the really complex data centers around program managing the build of those data centers together, right? So we see a significant demand. It's not India-specific demand, as you see, the demand overall has been going up, but both the demand coming in from the sovereign data needs, demand coming in from the need for high-performance compute increasingly. I mean, we've announced some of these projects with some of the IITs in terms of building those out. Right, so it's a significant opportunity. It's about I would say it's 15-17% of the overall pie for us, overall growing at probably 40-50% plus. There is way more demand than supply in that space at the moment, right? So we are very selective on the projects that we take on, but we feel the segment will continue to grow for us at a very, very rapid clip over the next few years.
Point taken. The other thing that I want to discuss with you, Ashish, you talked about the 16-17% kind of, orders can come your way, but there are analysts on the street which are expecting almost 40% CAGR for the entire data center industry. Is that a realistic number? And is there a number that you can put for the entire industry size as to what the demand could be over the next few years?
Yeah, so that 16-17% was the share of data center business within Aurionpro, right? I think the business has been growing at certainly north of 50% for us as well. I believe for a lot of other players in the industry, being very, very specialized player for us, we see that segment growing very strongly, 40 to 50% at least over the next several years. The overall size, though, I think so. There are lots of industry experts. We're not an analyst, but if you look at some of the other industry reports coming out over the next 8 to 10 years globally, that's $1 trillion of spend going in. Just in terms of repurposing, for example, the traditional data centers for the high performance from the AI compute itself is supposed to be $1 trillion opportunity till 2030, right? I think some of that trickles into India. A lot of original demand from the digitization of India also comes into India. So India, if anything, I think would continue to grow. The capacity will continue to grow at I think 40% CAGR is a pretty good number in terms of, let's say, over the next 7 to 8 years, right? I think there is a significant demand. Some of this is obviously not known in terms of how fast the industry has been changing, right? But we feel the demand will be very, very strong, for the medium term, at least that we can have a look at it, right? So I think 40% is a pretty good number to look at.
Right, Mr. Rai, this is Vinny joining in the conversation as well. While obviously you're talking about the 40% growth in the next, CAGR growth in the next few years is what we could watch out for as well. I just want to understand, what are the prima facie challenges that, you're facing over there while opportunities there? Right now, what is the biggest concern that comes in terms of the data center opportunity for the company?
Yeah, I think the scaling up for us, so we are a product and platform player, so we believe in building our own IP. I think we've got a highly specialized design team that's been, helping design the very complex data centers. We've got a very strong team in terms of program managing everything that goes around. But I think the longer term prize for Aurionpro specifically is in terms of productizing the various parts of the data center value chain, right? So we have been working. We are a very R&D focused organization, so we've had our R&D teams working on building out products. For example, we're already piloting a product around edge compute, which we believe again would see a significant demand, not just in India, but in terms of sort of export potential around the world, right? So which is where a very highly productized, compact format for an edge data center that can really get rolled out, whether it's defense needs, whether it's remote locations, whether it's very large geographies, right, both in India and abroad, as well as other parts of the value chain, right? So for us, we will once see obviously the organic growth of the data center capacity and what we are doing around designing those, what we are doing around building those, especially with our strategic partners. But I think the longer term, let's say 3-5 years out, a bulk of it would be around productized offerings and things like edge compute, high performance compute that we can actually not just sort of provide in India, but also provide it around the world.
Indeed. Ashish, also wanted your take regarding the overall 2030 vision that you have articulated for yourself. It will, of course, be a part of organic, inorganic and co-engineering kind of growth coming in. Talk to me about, how much will be organic, how much could be inorganic? Do you have any inorganic opportunities in the pipeline right now that you're looking at? What size, which capabilities are you looking at adding?
Yeah, so great question. Look, our vision 2030, we stated that 3 years back. We've been, continuing to make progress on it. For us, we've got, 4 or 5 major bets going on. Transformation in the corporate banking space is one. Transformation in the transit payment space, in the payment space in general, is the second one. Digitization of India is a third one, where the data center theme plays in as well. And the fourth is around co-engineering the products as well as enterprise AI offerings around the globe, right? So for us, the goal is to be a top 3 global player in each of these segments. I think we've been progressing pretty well on each of those, as you would have seen. The firm has been seeing we've grown at 34-35% for the last 4 years since we pivoted into making this global products and platforms player. There's been a very, very strong investment that's happened in R&D that's been propelling the new products coming out to the market, right? So I think we feel each of these segments is a $10 to $50 billion opportunity. Our goal is to be one of the most competitive global players, if not the most competitive global player in each of those segments. In most of those segments, we've progressed well. We've had global clients come in. We were rated very well by global analysts. And, I think the business has been growing very strongly. So going into 2030, we feel we will be a top 3 global player in each of these segments. Now, what is the size of that player? Each of these segments is a 10 to 50, $70 billion segments. Enterprise AI is probably a $1 trillion segment. We will continue to make investments. I think both organically as well as inorganically. Organically, we'll continue to CAGR. We've been saying we'll continue to CAGR in the range of 30%, which we've been doing for the last several years. Inorganically, I think as an opportunity presents itself. So the way we operate is we have a strategic blueprint for each of these bets. Now, that blueprint, of course, we have products that we are building out, but every gap on that is a choice of buy versus build. We've done 3 acquisitions in the last 9-10 months. We've deployed probably close to 400 crores towards those acquisitions. We did, Arya.ai, which we discussed on a channel. We deployed 200 odd crores, 150 odd crores too. We will continue to do that. Are there any opportunities? We are always open to the buy versus build choice, where when an opportunity presents itself, we are not aggressively looking for acquisitions, but I think we become fairly prominent in each of those spaces, and we become a natural sort of buyer. So people do approach us, and as and when a deal makes sense, we'll come and talk about it.
Right. Just one more question that I have, Mr. Rai, is just in terms of, while obviously favorable policies, everything is in place, but tier 2, tier 3, and do you think that's where most of the data center expansion and growth is going to be happening in these cities? And what is it that in terms of a policy, any change or more easing that is required from that front?
Yeah, so look, I think that's a great question. Digitization of India is not a tier 1 city phenomenon. The way applications are built these days, there is a lot of demand around compute, around edge compute, especially, closer to where the consumption is. And so there'll be demand all across. That is the reason why we invested so heavily around productizing offerings when it comes to edge compute, which can be deployed pretty much across the country. Anywhere there'll be a lot of demand from government organizations, lots of demand from defense, but lots of consumption of web applications across the country, right? So I think you're totally right. I mean, demand will be tier 2, tier 3, and I think there has to be a much more efficient way of sort of building against that demand, which is what we are doing from the products that we are building out, right? I think and I think government is very progressive in India. India is one of the, when it comes to digitization, I think it's pretty much top tier in the world, right?
True.
So I think policy will keep making progress in terms of supporting the sort of efficiency of their company.
Yeah, and the digitization has been fairly broad-based. So tier 2, tier 3 is not far away. A quick word, and if you can give me a quick answer for this one, Ashish. Overall, you had the target of revenue growth of 25-30% over the long term with a margin profile of 20% plus, ROCE 20% plus. Are you on track for that?
Yeah, so I think we've been doing that for the last 3 years. So I think that's been the broader planning number for us all the while. Of course, I can't talk specific numbers, specific quarters, but broadly, we've been on track. I think we see a very good sort of runway over the medium to long term in terms of continuing to stick to those numbers.
Runway for growth. Thanks, Ashish, for making time and speaking with us today.
If you like this video, then like, share and subscribe to ET Now.